On December 11th, word came in that the once trailblazing anime studio Gainax was shutting their doors for good, ending a near 41-year history. Sadly, the house that Evangelion built had become a shell of its former glory in the last decade, and a number of factors sadly led to its downfall that I will cover in this video, along with the history of this revered studio and some of the figures involved. The future Gainax studio started life as Daicon Films in the early 80s at Osaka University of Arts with students Hideki Anno, Yoshiyuki Sadamoto, Hiroyuki Yamaga, Takami Akai, Toshio Okada, Yasuhiro Takada, and Shinji Higuchi, coming together to produce the animated short Daicon 3 for the opening ceremonies for the Nihon Sci-Fi Convention in 1981. They would follow that up with Daicon 4 2 years later in 1983, both being love letters to all sci-fi from anime and American films such as Star Wars and Alien. It showed a high level of skill for what at the time was a student-run film. Through this, they would soon enter the world of full-length animation with 1987's Royal Space Force. It would be at this point Daicon Films would start to go by the name Gainax. Costing an, at the time, record $5.5 million, it was the most expensive anime film produced up until that point. Sadly though, it would only bring in $2.2 million in the box office. Luckily, 1988's OVA, Gunbuster, directed by Hideki Anno, would help keep the doors open for Gainax and be the first commercial success. This, along with developing a number of eroge games, would see Gainax into the 90s. Anno would again help deliver Gainax's biggest series to date, Nadia's Secret of Blue Water, though behind the scenes, the series caused the VP, Hiroaki Ino, to step down and leave the studio in 1989. And in 1992, Gainax president and co-founder Toshio Okada would leave as well. In An America Magazine Volume 4, Issue 2, he would state, "There are several reasons. Number one was that I had accomplished what I set out to do in animation and computer games. In the beginning, when I was making Daicon 3 and 4 opening animation shorts, my dream was to someday make an anime movie, a robot anime, and an anime TV series. So there's nothing more for me to do in anime." It's September 27th, 1995, and you are watching the last episode of the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon on TV Tokyo. After the adventure of the Turtle Boys in April is complete and a final farewell from the cast, a preview is shown to an audience for an upcoming anime that now set to fill the spot starting next week.
2015年人類の明日を守るため汎用人型結成兵器エヴァンゲリオンが今出撃する新番組新世紀エヴァンゲリオン第1話使徒襲来
For over 100 episodes, this slot was filled by an all-ages adventure series starring teenagers. And aside from that, the new series, Neon Genesis Evangelion, couldn't be more different from the one it was set to replace. To get to this point though, Gainax was heavily relying on their video game work to sustain the company, as the last production to be released was the 1991 OVA Otaku no Video. Sadly, a sequel to Royal Space Force, Uru in Blue, which was in development at this time, was cancelled while in production. Gainax as a studio had become well loved in the otaku community, but had yet to make their mark with a wider audience. Even successes like Nadia had left the company with a $500,000 loss. According to Yoshihiro Takada's memoir, the 2002, the Notenkai Memoirs, Anno knew a guy from King Records named Atsuki, and as the story goes, the two were out drinking one day when Atsuki suggested to Anno that they work on a TV anime project together. Anno agreed on the spot, came back to the office, and promptly announced it to everyone. Nobody even batted an eyelash. All just accepted it without further thought. I remember thinking, okay, so Anno's made the decision then, and that was that. No surprise, nothing out of the ordinary. Initial production for what would become Neon Genesis Evangelion would start in 1993, and this would find a renewed Anno finding his groove once again. After feeling burnt out from his time on Nadia's Secret of Blue Water, Evangelion would premiere on October 4th, 1995, and would become a rapid success in Japan. With its darker themes, it would put its mark on the mecha genre. Gainax had finally found their breakout title, one that would take them and Anno from industry darling to the envy of every anime studio. With the show's success, Gainax was able to pay off a number of their debts from previous projects. Merchandise from Evangelion was everywhere. Video games, figures, models, even official strip mahjong games by Gainax themselves. The studio's future was in the best possible position it had ever been in. On July 13, 1999, Gainax president Takashi Sawamura and accountant Yoshitatsu Iwasaki were charged with tax evasion after a year-long investigation by the National Tax Agency. The two were responsible for hiding nearly $10 million from the beginning of Evangelion to 1997. The scheme utilized dummy companies and hid massive amounts of cash in safe deposit boxes. Takeda would comment, "I have to admit, I was aware of the fact that we were doing some shady accounting, but I had no idea how much money was involved. When they told me the amount, I was flabbergasted." Anno also would only become aware, along with everyone else, as most of the co-founders had taken a rather hands-off approach to the company's finance in pursuit of the creative end of things. In what should have been a moment for the studio to take a victory lap and announce their new projects to a waiting fanfare, this moment put a blemish on their record. Hiroyuki Yamaga would take over as president of the studio following the arrest, and would usher Gainax into its most productive period in its history throughout the early 2000s. Titles like Fooly Cooly,
Yeah, Cooly Cooly is you do it like this with your hands, see?
and Gurren Lagann would continue to push Gainax as a premium animation studio. They would also get time to revisit old titles like Gunbuster with the sequel series Diebuster. Though Hideki Anno would announce his departure from Gainax in 2007 to go out and create his own, Studio Khara. Even with Anno leaving, Gainax seemed like it was going to be in good hands creatively. Panty and Stockings would bring in the new decade strong and showed that the studio still had stories to tell. Even though Anno left, the two did still have a connection through Evangelion. Studio Khara was set up to push the rebuild of Evangelion project, as Anno feared that if produced by Gainax, they would make him scale down his vision. Sadly though, behind the scenes, Gainax was not doing well financially, and the relationship with Studio Khara soured. With the new deal for Evangelion, Gainax was left just with the merchandising rights to the series. They even asked Anno for a loan to stay afloat. Anno agreed under a condition that they would transfer rights to Khara a year earlier than in the contract, according to a piece written by Anno himself for the magazine Diamond. Gainax also desperately sold off a number of key IP, Gunbuster, Diebuster, and Fooly Cooly, along with selling off studio assets like animation cells, storyboards, and really anything that they felt would make them money. This action forced Anno's hand, and in 2016, Studio Khara sued Gainax for $1 million for unpaid royalties, which Khara would win in 2017. This would finalize the severing of ties with Anno until he would be pulled back in. In December 2019, another Gainax president would leave their posts, and again it would be through arrest. This time being that of Tomohiro Maki, and sadly this would be due to SA charges involving a woman in her teens using Gainax International Voice Acting School, where he was a president until taking the managing president post at Gainax in October of 2019, according to an article from Crunchyroll News. Maki would continue to deny the charges, though his defense was primarily built around saying the photos he took were necessary for business. Maki would be sentenced to 2.5 years in prison for his crimes. Sadly, this would be the final nail in the coffin for Gainax, as they were severely in debt to the tune of $35 million. In a last act by Anno, he was able to revert the rights of property still held by Gainax to their original creators, since Khara was the biggest creditor. Gainax would officially announce bankruptcy on July 7, 2024, and finally be dissolved on December 11, 2025, ending their 40-plus year history. Even though Gainax is now gone, that early spirit is still there in studios like Khara and Studio Trigger, one that was founded in 2011 by former Gainax employees Hiroyuki Imashi, creator of Gurren Lagann, and director Masahito Atsuka, who left after being frustrated with Gainax's management system. Even with all of Gainax's faults, Its history may be one where it will be remembered as a place to be the start for amazing talent, top-notch animation, and original stories. There is still something to be said for anime that is made for the medium specifically, as when it hits, it hits. It isn't subject to the viewer's preconceived notions of what the story should be from manga or light novels. Royal Space Force, Nadia and the Secret of Blue Water, Evangelion, Fooly Cooly, Gurren Lagann, and a host of others were special, as those that sat down to watch these for the first time were experiencing something unique by someone who was showing their love for all things sci-fi and anime on their sleeves. Much like all the way back in 1981 with Daicon 3, a short that paid homage to the properties they loved and yet ready to blow it all up as to create their own thing, Gainax was one of the earliest anime studios that I remember being the main draw to a series when I was first getting into anime in the early 2000s. Magazines would post news about their latest titles, and the talk of Eva finally making it to the US on TV was endless. Sadly, the fall of Gainax is something that may have been avoided countless times and in countless ways. Though to make it even 10, 20, and even 30 years was possibly a miracle all its own. It truly let the work speak for itself, and really the only plausible reason it lasted as long as it did. And just maybe, that work will be what people think of first, rather than the multiple scandals that plagued the studio. Thank you for watching the video. I hope that you liked it, as the more I got into this, I could have made this a multi-part series with the amount of info I was learning about Gainax, their founding, and their history till their closure. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and think about subscribing to the channel, as I've been doing essays like this one for a while now and have been having fun digging into topics like these. Until next time, this was Anime Report, Bionic Weasel.